everyone, and welcome to one of our knowledge transfer sessions. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of what does a financial planner do? It's actually one of those interesting questions. People ask me this all the time, especially when I'm investing for them. What do you do, in your downtime, your daily activity? What does a financial planner do, right? If you think about it right now, using investing as an example, right now on your fingertips on your phone, you have access to some investing tools, financial planning tools, all sorts of things that even 10 years ago I didn't even have access to. So there's a lot of do-it-yourself resources out there, but today we're going to be talking about what does a financial planner do. Now, as usual, this is our standard disclosure statement. The information we present today has to be treated as general in nature. Now, everyone's situation is a little different. When you're talking about the financial services industry, there can always be other things to consider. So we always just put our standard disclosure out there. A little bit about myself. I have more than 18 years experience in the financial services industry. I've worked everywhere from a bank, I've worked in 401ks, an insurance company, and I run my own financial planning practice in Bellevue, Washington State. So a lot of my videos are based around Washington State focused because I have a really long history here in the state. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what is a financial planner. We're going to talk about the conflict of interest, which is cost. And then we're going to talk about our practice a little bit, how we're trying to be different. So a little bit about here's the general what a financial planner does, here's your costs, and how we're trying to be different. So what is a financial planner? This term, what does a financial planner do? Well, I would argue a financial planner is a process, not a product. And I give you two examples here, one from the Certified Financial Planner Board, and then one from Edward Jones. And I think they're both somewhat similar in concept, but it's a process. It's actually a process of understanding goals, understanding resources, trying to be broad-based with your knowledge level, actually. You're not trying to just sell someone an investment product or an insurance product. You're supposed to be analyzing needs and have a broader scope of what you can do. And it's about developing a plan and iterating on it before you even implement it. Now, the problem I run into when we talk about this process on here, I would argue almost anyone reading this right now gets it. They see it and they go, yeah, that's what I want. My experience is this is not what people want. What people want is a simple solution. Think about going out and exercising. I would argue the mass public in general wants to take a diet pill, and only a certain portion of people actually want to exercise and do the full process. And so what I find in the financial services industry is one of the problems is actually you, the average public, because you want a product, not a process typically. Now, what financial planners do is they have all sorts of different areas of expertise. And so we talk about being broad-based. You're supposed to be able to help with things like cash flow, budgeting, tax planning, retirement planning, Social Security, risk management. There's lots of areas around financial planning. And one of the problems when we talk about financial planners is that we only have certain areas of expertise. I'm using my practice as an example. I have tended to work with retirees or soon-to-be retirees, really focusing on cash planning, around income planning, taxation for retirees. Usually I'm very robust around those concepts, estate planning. But using estate planning as an example, I don't create trusts or wills. I act as a thought leader where I'm trying to figure out this is what we're trying to accomplish. Then I need to get someone to a lawyer to accomplish that secondary piece of a trust or a will. I don't do cash flow or budgeting, as an example. I usually expect people to manage that. I'm really always checking in on that. In fact, I'd argue financial planning is a lot easier if you can just tell me what your budget is. But what I typically do is I tell retirees, here's how much you can spend. Does this fit in your budget? Okay, so all of us financial planners, in general, we have specific areas of expertise. And you have this basic problem. You can't hire a surgeon to fix a toilet. You need to hire a plumber. So one of your problems is going to be this concept of alignment. You need to find the financial planner that aligns with their skill sets with your goals. Now, the right fit, the value can be really high. And the challenge with value is everyone has a different need around their own personal situation. But there's really two areas that financial planners really help with. It's called technical finance and behavioral finance. Technical finance is things like achieving better rates of return than the average person, or knowing things about products or solutions out there that the average person doesn't know about. That doesn't mean you don't know this. When we talk about technical finance, one of the things you have to do from, say, the fiduciary standard is you have to look at how someone's doing on their own already. And I find a lot of people, especially those with more wealth, have a lot of strong, robust technical finance already in their pocket, actually. Behavioral finance is where I find we have a lot of value. And that's around the basic concept of emotion and your financial decisions. Financial planning can help you save all sorts of time. It can help create confidence for you. Just the basic idea of having a financial plan and that goal setting around it can really give you this kind of certainty about your future that is really strong. And so behavioral finance is one of those areas, fear of the market, where a financial planner can really help you if this is something you're struggling with. But if I really want to simplify this, if I want to simplify what a financial planner does, what we can usually fix is lack of a plan, lack of time, meaning we can help save time for you, investment for returns, fear of missing out, taxes, and products you don't know about. But you may not need these fixes. The reality is, and this is why I actually interview my clients and kind of talk this through with them, can you invest on your own? I mean, on my cell phone right now, I can invest in things I can only dream of 10 years ago. Are you willing to learn? Where are your pain points? Where are your fears? Are you willing to learn about taxes? So you may not need the fix, but financial planners can usually fix the things on the left. But there is a conflict of interest when we talk about financial planning. It's this basic idea that somehow someone has to get paid, right? I don't work for free, and the average financial planner doesn't work for free. They're usually, if they make it, very well compensated, in fact. But there's a big conflict of interest in payment. And once again, I like to point the finger at the general public as well here. The problem is what are you willing to pay, right? If you're expecting to buy a mansion for $1, you're going to have a problem, especially when you interact with the financial services industry. What you're willing to pay usually gates the types of services you're going to have. Now, you can fix that with knowledge, research, spend time to fix it. But this is a problem that you're going to run into is what are you willing or able to pay? And so you need to know the cost when we talk about dealing with a financial planner. And there's usually 3 types of fee arrangements you run into in this concept. The first 2 are usually held to the fiduciary or best interest standard, and that's flat fees or fee for advice models, and then investment management with a AUM style fee, like a 1% fee. Those are advice-based models where you're paying these fees usually annually to have access to a financial planner and have them update your plan and work with you to accomplish your goals. And when you look at these fees, you might go, well, I'm not willing to pay that. And that's okay, right? That's actually a really good knowledge point for yourself around this entire process. But these are general ranges you're going to run into. I know financial planners who charge flat fees annually of $10,000 a year to work with specific tech workers. Your 1% investment management fee is a pretty normal industry standard at this point. But you can also get financial planning services under commission models. It's a little harder because that's usually under the suitable or prudent person standard. But it is possible. It's just harder. And that's where you're going to see some things like commissions on mutual funds, insurance commissions, home and auto, life, disability, health insurance, long-term care, annuities. These are things that are tangential that sometimes can still fall under that fiduciary standard for you. And when we're talking about the conflict of interest around fees, you're going to find, if you really do the math, there could be wildly different fees based upon your overall life cycle, right? So if you're 45 and you want to save $1,000 a month, and this is a classic financial services industry problem, if you're paying an advisory fee, it's about $120 a year for this plan, but it's going to be every year and it's going to increase. So that's usually a good starting point for a financial planner. You can do trading fees or commissions, and you're going to usually see somewhere between $60 and $240 a year for those type of styles. Or you can pay a flat advisory fee of $3,000 a year. And the problem you're going to see with this 45-year-old is they're trying to pay that flat advisory fee while trying to save $1,000 a month. That might not be a good deal for them, right? So that pure fiduciary standard of I'm just going to pay you a bill, fee for advice, that can be problematic in this life cycle. Now, there's actually an interesting component in the insurance industry. A lot of times you'll use things like whole life insurance, index life, or variable life as a savings tool. And when we look at it and around the fee structure, and you compare it to the other models, you'd see that the commission potential here is actually very high on these life insurance products. And so this can oftentimes be a conflict of interest around these because they can be suitable, but the commission or the revenue is so much higher on that it can be problematic as well. Now, my bread and butter is typically for retirees or soon-to-be retirees, and that's usually taking a portion of their life savings and earning an advisory fee, that 1% fee to work with them annually and work with them one-on-one throughout retirement. And that's a pretty normal model in the retirement services industry. If you buy a target date fund, that's something where you go to yourself and say to Fidelity, I want to buy a Freedom Fund, say I'm going to retire in 2030. You're going to see things on there like mutual fund expense ratios, oftentimes around 0.5%. So that's your cost for what we call a robo-style advisor. You can pay commissions for advisors in this space. And this is where the flat advisory fee starts to actually make more sense, I would argue, is at these dollars investment amounts. So what makes our practice different? How are we trying to be different in the financial services industry? Well, I would say usually there's 3 types of ways that people interact with the financial services industry. It's you do it yourself or self-service. That's going to a website and buying something on your own. There's a robo-advised model where you're following a path put in front of you or an investment path like an asset allocation model that is more automated. And it's cheaper because of that, but you're usually going to have like a phone relationship in those situations, or still kind of do it yourself, but there's a lot more automation on that. And then there's the hands-on model, and that's what we're trying to be. We're trying to be a direct relationship, hands-on model where if someone retires with me, my expectation is I'm there on the retirement date, and I'm there at the end of their life too. And I'm at the age where I can still accomplish that for most of my clients. So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to be in that space specifically, which is important to define. We have a very specific process. We want to take some time, get to know you, gather information, and create a summary email and educate you, and just let you go. We don't want people to sign up with us day one. We want to figure out what the situation is. Can we add value? What type of value could we add? And then we want to write you a big long email. This is what we think we can do in your situation. And then we're hoping to follow up to go through that with you and go from there. And once we go from there, then we start building out personalized plans, implementation, follow-up, and ongoing review. Fees typically happen around step 4 because that's where you're starting to make the choice of who's pressing the buttons. I like to say, if I'm pressing the buttons, I'm going to earn fees. If you're going to press the buttons, you're going to pay a lot less in fees. And we're very transparent about our fees. You can go right to our website and see it. We put on there our different arrangements for the different types of people we would work with. We don't have any sales goals. If you're a do-it-yourself type of person, we don't want to take your assets away from you and make you miserable because we're going to have a bad relationship. And we don't want to charge fees if we're just not adding value, which is why that first meeting, kind of understand what we're trying to do, is so important to us. We have some success stories. We work with a lot of different people, and I think these success stories kind of show you how a well-rounded financial planner can work. Not everyone's going to have any of these situations, but it just gives you this kind of idea of these are the things that you should be able to do that's not just investment management or product sales. And so, when we talk about process, one of the first cases I ever worked on was a man walked in my office and he had a brain cancer called a glioblastoma, and I had to figure out, as basically a brand new financial planner, how to retire this person. I had to look at things called life settlements. I had to look at their pension plan. I had to look at Social Security disability. I had to look at their disability insurance and make decisions around the best way to handle all of that. We had to look at their retirement plans. We had to plan for the end of life. We had to plan for long-term care. And we were there through that entire process. And that was a well-rounded, robust planning scenario. Number 2 is actually one of my favorite success stories. I really think it differentiates us from the industry. This is a flat planning arrangement where someone wanted to work with us to build out the retirement plan, and they wanted to explore options. So we looked at annuities, pension maximization. They had a rental property, so we had to look at a 1031 exchange to a Delaware statutory trust. They wanted to talk about some private equity, and ultimately they felt like they had a pretty good idea and pretty good handle of where they were. They're more of a boglehead style investor, and they just wanted to do a flat planning arrangement and just kind of get knowledge as they went forward, and that's a great situation. And then, last one I wanted to talk about is, we took a retiring tech professional. They need to build out a financial plan, so we built out the financial plan for them first for a flat fee. And we figured out together they had pretty significant what's called sequence returns risk. That's where you need to spend a lot of money early in retirement because you're delaying things like Social Security. And so we had to look at all sorts of structured products, things that have structural guarantees by like a bank or insurance company. We looked at period certain annuities. We looked at just all sorts of different ideas that could fit within that concept for this person. And they settled on a 3-bucket approach where they're managing their own growth assets. So they're managing more S&P 500 standard index funds. And then they're having us do some income planning for them with an income bucket. And then we're doing a more specialized annuity called a registered index linked annuity. So lots of different ways you can interact here. And we didn't even talk about tax planning services or estate planning. So, if you're a financial planner, you should be more robust, ideally, than just investment management. So we're here to help. I hope this video was educational. I hope it gives you an idea of what a financial planner can do and a difference out there, so that as you're kind of exploring your options, you kind of know what to look for, from my opinion, of course. Because there's lots of financial professionals out there, and really kind of diving down to the one that fits you and alignment is really important. If you'd like to bug us, feel free. We'd love talking to people. We work out of Bellevue, Washington State. We work with some clients virtually, though we're still trying to be as hands-on as possible. And then most of our clients we try and meet with, face-to-face at least every once in a while, because it's really important as people age. So thank you, and I hope this video was good information for you.